Hi, I'm George Cow, and today I'm happy to be here with one of the members of my group coaching program, the MasterHeart community, and I've got Danielle Gardner here with me. Hi, Dani.
Hi George, how you going?
Thanks for doing
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
So let me read out your bio for everybody so we can get a context of what you do, and I'm excited to have you share some of the lessons you're learning in as you build your business.
yeah,
So, Danielle Gardner is a business coach who specializes in helping holistic practitioners and coaches to create a grounded marketing message that they can feel proud to share online. So, that may be helpful for some of you watching this now. Danielle believes you don't have to be loud and make bold claims to grow a following. You can market yourself in a quiet, authentic, and visionary way that will draw to you your kindred spirits that you would love and enjoy working with. So that is wonderful. And now, of course, I'll put the link to Danielle's website and anything relevant in the notes of the video. So be sure to check that out and connect with her there. So Danielle, we were talking a bit before this video, and one of the lessons you learned, I mean, as a business coach, particularly, you are more sensitive to these things than I think the average business owner, because you coach people on this stuff as well. But we are typically taught in marketing and sales to chase clients, to kind of like, you know, try to reach out to people a lot and all that stuff. But you've been learning to shift from chasing clients to building community.
yeah,
So talk about that. What does that mean for you?
yeah. What did happen is, like so many of us, how we start off, I was doing all sorts of various marketing activities and spreading myself very thin, really, in all different areas. And it was a lot of hard work and I would get clients that way. But then it dawned on me that if I didn't really have an audience or a community or a following, I didn't really have anything. So and that was a time when I started to learn about content marketing. It's like, yeah. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to focus on building community. And I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do, but I guess first of all, the mindset helped. So just deciding that helped me begin to make different choices. So it felt like something I had somewhat control over, or something like community building. I thought I can do that. Whereas pushing and striving to get clients all the time, I just, there's a point where it's like, well, I'm not even sure if all this pushing and striving leads to anything. So it felt like, yeah, I can do that. It was energizing. I can build a community. So really, for me, I just started being really helpful, and I started kind of unlocking some of the knowledge that I was normally only sharing inside email opt-ins or paid sessions. And I was just being more generous with that and sharing it. And, I figured that there was no use me being the world's best kept secret. There was no use in only paying clients realizing the value of what I had. And I think normally what we're taught is like, well, you have testimonials that helps, that way people can get to know you. And it's like, well, that's part of it. Or, you got to deal with, you address objections, that's another way to get clients. But I'm sort of like, I heard this saying, the best way you can demonstrate that you can help someone is to actually help them. And that really stuck with me. So, really that has built a really quite a good foundation. Like there's still way more to expand into, but I do feel I have a following now, and it means that I've created fertile ground in which offers can then actually be placed into and take root, and something will happen.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
excellent. I love it. Yeah, I've felt the same, and it is so much easier on many levels when you have a community. They can, and we'll talk about this later. Maybe they can tell you what they want,
Yeah.
and also it's easier, kind of on the maybe the heart or heart and soul level to be giving and trying to help as best as we can through content. And it doesn't mean, and those of you who have seen me talk about this, it doesn't mean we, for those who have online courses to sell, like, oh, should I just give it all away for free? It's like, no, I mean, you give away the stuff for free that's easy to grasp, easier to consume, easier to understand. The courses, the paid courses, are more like the in-depth stuff, the things that have a lot of nuances and things that take some, maybe even some hand-holding or a lot of more education to understand and apply. But yeah, once you start to share all the things that you can that's consumable, people so appreciate that. Yeah. So it's so great that you found that as well. Okay, so then you realized as you started sharing these things that people were attracted to how you think, and that made a difference in your marketing. What do you mean by that? How you think?
Yeah, and this is probably more of an awareness or epiphany or something that's happened more recently, especially this year. And actually, just in my most recent newsletter, I actually wrote that for the first time because it sort of landed in my head like that. It's like, yeah, people are actually coming to me because they're saying, I like the way you think, basically. And I thought, how interesting. It's not because of why I do what I do or, like anything else. But of course, how I think informs and flavors and influences everything I do. And the biggest change that I've made, I think especially this year, although I was doing a bit of it last year, but just sharing more and more of my opinion or more and more how I think about things, and that's what, that's human nature. We want to have interactions with people who think like we think or, share similar values. And in essence, I'm sharing my values and my beliefs by sharing my opinion. And I think that's something that is absent in a lot of marketing. I know you do it really well, George. But it's something that I'm starting to teach a lot more too. It's like, to sort of draw out these opinions and people are a little bit surprised, like, oh, is that part of marketing type thing? And I think, I reckon it is,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's great. Maybe we can talk about this thing you've been teaching called Write, Observe, Invite. I think this might be a good time.
Yeah, sure.
So tell us what that approach is and what that means.
Yeah, so it's, I guess, a really simple launch strategy. And I mean super simple. Like, I've actually never really been into, when I first heard of this word launch, I couldn't, like, people were launching a website or anything. I was like, don't you just put it up and off you go? Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know why all this fuss needed to happen. And I get it more now. But what I also get is that launching can be very, very stressful, So really the right is right content, or, if video's their thing, whatever, it's like the creation bit, then observe is what happens when that goes out, like how is it received and who seems to be appreciating it, and just observing what happens basically. And then invite is when you have an offer, then who can you invite to actually come into this, And there's sort of an extra bit that I will say to people now, like I'm sure you come across this, George. Everyone wants to sort of come out of the gates with a group program, and no community, no nothing. And so one very telling little test you can do is, it's like, can you write down 8 to 10 people's names who you believe that this offer would be really good for? Now, I do it myself, right? So if I've got something coming up like a mastermind or whatever, I'm like, okay, who would be good for this? Now, if the mastermind's for 8 people and I can't even come up with 8 people, then it kind of tells me that I don't have enough fertile ground yet for this offer, it's a little bit premature. And I mean, in most cases for me, I've been able to write a list, but I have when I share it with with a lot of people, it's like, well, like that's an idea, so it kind of is very telling, isn't it, that, how have you got enough content out there that is being very helpful, that people are engaging with? So yeah, a very simple process to go through.
I like that. Yeah. Write, observe, invite. I like that you said, hey, in the invite stage, can you write down the names of 8 people that, I would call them fans, right? Or engagers of your content that it would make sense for them to say yes, or it would feel good for you to reach out to.
Yeah.
So that's nice. I really like that.
And with this mastermind, I was just saying that I have just started. Like, I wrote down about 8 to 10 names.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of them on the list has joined. The others came from other places, right? But it's still very telling. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it doesn't mean to say that all of those people, are going to say yes, but it's just an indicator. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great. And we'll talk a bit about the mastermind later if you would like to, in addition to your marketing appraisal. But would you like to say anything about market research? Because that's something that you've been doing better and more, I think, than most people, including most business coaches. And you learned some things about market research. So first of all, what is market research? How would you describe it? Why is it important? And how do you kind of start going about it?
Yeah. Okay. Gosh, how would I define market research? It should be obvious, but I guess it's really just observing. That's like a really big part of it, like observing what is actually happening around you. So, and there are various ways to do that. You see, a lot of people in the communities I work with, it's all about intuition and, all of this kind of stuff. And people are always, I feel like they're staring down at their navels, creating stuff from their intuition that maybe the market hasn't called for or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So it's sort of like, lift your eyes up.
I like to say they're ahead of their time.
Yeah. And start talking to people. So, where I began my own journey with market research is the sort of, I would say, traditional market research interviews. So where there's a set of questions that you're asking every person, and, then I would say, you initially interview at least 10. There was one time that I did it, I was getting so much out of it, I kept going. I went to 20. So, and that happened over like maybe a month and a half. But, I got a lot of data from that, So that's one way to do it. If you do it by interviews, really, really important to actually document as you go, I reckon. Because when I first started it, I was just like, I'll just really listen to the recording. But, if you do 10 hours of recordings, like, it's not really, it's something you can keep putting off. I'll listen to that recording later. So I've got into the habit of making really good notes as I go, and actually typing into a spreadsheet if I'm doing the interviews that way. How I tend to do it now more is a bit different. A lot of it is actually automated. So what I mean by that is kind of every time you sign up for something with me, I'm asking you questions, right? So for my newsletter, for example, there's a couple of market research questions there. So I'm constantly getting data, and I'm not having to do anything extra for it. So I can just go into my like Google spreadsheet and go, just check out the latest data of what's happening, and then the other way I do it now is, for example, this, the 30-minute marketing message appraisal, the first couple of questions, they're very helpful for the person who I'm with, but they're basically helpful for me because they're market research questions, so it's like, I'm just a market research freak, and I just keep finding opportunities to embed the process into my business. So some of the things that I've learnt from doing that is that I might say things in a particular way, and then I notice people are saying it a different way, and that's more meaningful to them. So for me, market research isn't about me changing who I am, but it's about observing certain nuances, and you can just change that and see what happens. So, I was looking at some data the other day and noticing how I was just going down the list, and I was seeing how many times people were talking about consistency with content, especially, or marketing. So it was like all about consistency. And I was thinking, I'd probably, if I was going to talk about that, I'd be talking about like accountability. I would probably use that word. And so they're kind of different. They're connected, but different. Do you know what I mean? So like people might need accountability to be consistent, right? But I could actually ditch talking about accountability and just talking about what they actually want, which is, because not everyone wants accountability, but they do want consistency. Because people have got really interesting views about what accountability is, as well. Like I kind of think it's about me going, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to tell someone because that's going to help me. It's not about someone telling me what to do, So noticing little changes like that can make a really big difference to how the message is received to someone and how they feel. And I think that's really, marketing is all about how does someone feel when they read what you're saying, or digest what you're saying. So
yeah. Fantastic. It's great. So before we go into talking about your marketing appraisal, maybe you can talk about this for a minute or two, if you would like to. Images. One of the things that I think one of your many strengths is bringing images into marketing, and I want you to talk about it because that's not one of my strengths. So talk about that. How is that? What do you think about it? How does it work for you? Anything you want to say about it?
Yeah, sure. So, and, I have a little giggle because this is, the biggest point where we're so different, of course. And I think, for me, I call it, image curation. Sounds like a fancy name. So, but it is very carefully, it's like you're doing that. You're choosing an image that is going to fit the message or help tell the story of the message. So, one way I approach my Facebook page, for example, is I want the feeling, like if someone decides that they're just going to go to my page, I want it to feel like they're flipping through a lovely magazine, So like, and that's part of the experience, So that's my thinking around it. I've tried not to do images, and I just can't. I just keep going back to, I just have to have it because it's more like it's important to me personally, and it's like it's an important part of my self-expression. Yeah. So it's like if I cut that off, I feel like something's not quite right anymore. So and then the other thing I'll just say about images is images need to be chosen in such a way that the person who reading them would happily like to see themselves in that image, in that scene. All right. And so therefore, images of pain or their shame or their stress or anything like that should be avoided because, what do we do when we see an unpleasant image? We tend to want to turn away, and so, and so really people are going to scroll away. Really, So, I think images are important, and if they're important to that person, they're important to me, and I think it's part of the storytelling.
Yeah, and I think you're also drawing to you the people who resonate with that same style or energy of the images, sort of the values, and I would say the energy of it, So that's really, because, well, an image is 1,000 words, right?
Yeah.
They say.
And it helps communicate, again, my brand, my values, all of that about what I represent. So, yeah.
Nice. So I'll definitely, of course, put the link to your Facebook page in the notes of the video so that people can go and see what we're talking about here, and the look and feel of Dani's presence online. Wonderful. So as you all can see, there's a lot you can benefit from following Dani's content and maybe contacting her and working with her in some way. So Dani, do you want to talk about your 30-minute marketing appraisal? You can also talk about your mastermind if you wish to. I know you just filled it, but
yeah, sure. I'll quickly cover those. So the marketing message appraisal goes for 30 minutes, and it's really for anyone who is feeling like their message is, or they're putting stuff out and they just sort of like nothing's really happening. Especially content. I mean, offers are, I certainly look at those as well, but I mean just content in general. I often actually with offers, I find, they're just not conversation starters often. So this is why people may not get a lot of engagement in actual offers, because people might be going off to look at the link or, something like that. So, in this session, before I meet with someone, I actually have a look at their Facebook page, their website, maybe their LinkedIn profile, just to get an overall feel for what's going on. And I can straight away see there'll be things that they can change, like little tweaks that will make a big difference. Anything from what they're sharing. Some people are just sharing other people's content a lot, and with only the briefest little comment as to why they're sharing it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like sometimes people are giving a little to their audience, so their audience gives even less, So it's like, helping people understand, how to start something. Start with something that's interesting to your audience, and what's interesting to them is something that's happening to them. And how do you know what's happening to them? Well, that can come back to market research, as well. So yeah, it's sort of like it's a really helpful laser focused sort of session where I can have an overall look, give them some things to go away with, give them a few templates and tools to use, and they can sort of do that. And then if of course, if they want some help later on, they can always come back. But yeah, it's a great little starting point, really.
Fantastic.
And then so with the mastermind, it's called the Quiet Marketing Mastermind, and so yeah, that will open up again in October and November, and it's a small group of 8 at the moment, and there's some one-on-one sessions included in that as well. And we meet fortnightly for a minimum of 3 months, and the big focus is on messaging and how to actually apply this sort of quiet marketing approach, essentially a content marketing approach, to their business.
Fantastic. Great. So I'll be sure to put the link or links in the notes of the video. And any kind of parting words of encouragement, inspiration, anything you want to say to the audience as we end the call?
Thanks for putting me on the spot, George. I think I would just say that if anyone's feeling like they're just running around trying to get clients and whatever, it's like really, it goes back to that. How can you build your following? How can you build your audience? How can you maybe just focus on the content and being very helpful and maybe sharing your opinion and doing that so that you can create fertile ground so that you can then put an offer out that people will be interested in and they're ready for, because they know you a bit. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for being an example of that. And I'll just want to encourage everyone to go and check out Dani's page. And if you're interested in the marketing message appraisal, that is very valuable, very helpful. So check that out as well. The links are in the notes. And thanks for doing this, Dani.
Yeah, thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me.